It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
All right, what's going on, everybody? This is a weird hybrid today again. It is, but Cass, is Cass super loud today? I don't know. Did you
Am I?
I
can hear him, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a little bit of background noise there. Actually, now it's good.
Now it's good.
Now it's good. Now it's really good. I don't know what happened there. Zach, did you fix something? Maybe. Anyway, sounds pretty good now. All right, this is a weird hybrid for two guys, or as Trev called it, two guys and a Gazzola.
I love it.
That's good. Two guys and a Gazzola works. But this is a weird. Is it the GCL Diesel pre and post game show and I'm in it? Is it the oil stream and Cass is in it?
Right.
Or is it two guys and a goalie and you're in it?
It's a weird Twilight Zone
worlds
thing.
colliding here. It's a little strange.
Boom.
Cass, what's up, buddy? How do you view this? Do you view this as two guys with Tommy, post game with me, or oil stream with you?
I kind of just based on the time of day. I mean, it's got to be two guys and a Gazzola.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
good.
that's kind of just because of the time of day. If this was in the evening, yeah, it'd be something else. But I think it's two guys and a Gazzola. That's what I'm going to run with, anyways.
The Edmonton Oilers have advanced. Obviously, we're going to get to that. We'll get to your bigger and hotter headlines as well. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. You can also slide over into the nasty chat. If you were watching on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up. What a thumbs up morning on the morning show
Amazing.
today.
Honestly.
Holy smokes. It's at over 1,100 right now for likes, which
insane.
is pretty cool. So that's pretty exciting. Speaking of exciting today, Tommy Gazzola had to get a new driver's license
I
today.
did.
How was that?
Well, it was very efficient. It's great having a registry right next door, basically. And I went up to the lady, and she's like, any change of address? I was like, yeah, actually. So she's like, okay, updated address. She's like, do you need your license with the new address? I was like, yeah, I guess so. And I'm like, do I need to do that like right away? And she, just curious, innocently asking. She goes, by law, you have 14 days to do it from your change of address. I was like, oh, we're doing it today. Bad, Tom. Bad.
Yeah, so if you
Tom.
would have been getting like tickets and stuff, would they been going to your old address or something?
Correct. That's what Awanek brought up. But
Oh, yeah,
I
of course
actually
Matty brought
emailed
that up.
The manager of my old building, and he said,
Yeah.
you don't have any mail, so it's all good.
So you've been a good boy.
Evidently, knock on wood. So
Your hair was good for a picture today, though. At least you got that
thought
going
it was
for you.
all right.
Like
Yeah.
recently. With
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got
for
down.
sure.
It's pretty high up there right now, eh?
yeah, like
I like it.
It has like this like 1 week buffer before I could start slicking it back. Go Tino Vaselino.
Seriously?
So, yeah.
Really? So you like she told you like don't touch it for a week?
No. It like
Oh.
because you put it up, right?
Yeah.
So it's up,
Okay.
and then it just starts to flop over
Wow.
in like a week or so.
Cool. I never understand any of that. Obviously, that's okay.
What kind of hat are you wearing? You got the ESC hat today. Okay,
ESC,
you
I just
got it
had
on
backwards. I don't know. Sometimes I'm forward. If I wear it for the whole day, it kind of squeezes in my head. Get a
Yeah.
little tired, you know.
No, you're doing good. You're hanging in there.
All right, so post game was great last night, guys. I watched.
Thank you.
I watched a good chunk of it. The nasty chat was just a cast. That's just a glorious place to be after a series win, is it not?
Oh, it's a great place to be. Great place to be. And you don't have, I mean, you compare that to when they lose one game in a series and people are freaking out where you're like, this is horrible, like having to deal with this emotion. But yeah, people are fired up. And it's, they're already moving on to the next thing. Everyone talking about, do they play Vancouver? Do they play Nashville? Who do you want to play and all that? But it was a lot of fun. People pretty fired up and excited over a big win, which was fun. It was a good win.
Mm-hmm.
So just let's start here. Look, if you're listening on TuneIn, iHeart, EdmontonSportsTalk.com, text us your questions, text us your opinions on anything that we're talking about. If you want to chime in, 780-218-9999. Obviously over on the on YouTube in the nasty chat as well. Tommy, I'll start with you on this one.
Okay.
How good was Leon Draisaitl in last night's hockey game?
Just a force to be reckoned with. He was excellent and responsible, good with the puck, obviously. His finish was primo. Even though the Riddick one where he saved it in the net, like he saw it go in and he kind of sat there and he's like, that went in.
Yeah.
And then you saw him skate to the bench and start the bumps with the fist bumps. So I thought he was excellent, and it's a luxury, obviously, to have him to complement Connor McDavid, and this is why. You need him in big games at key moments to be clutch. He has done so time and time again, year after year after year, and he's going to need to continue to do so. But yesterday was a perfect example of what Leon Draisaitl is, and that is a primetime player, big money guy.
I don't know. It's always like a recency bias thing. You're like, that was the greatest game he'd ever played. But Cass, I mean, when people were saying that last night at the chat and on our show this morning, I mean, I certainly was going to be like, no, it wasn't. Like, I thought it could have been. Like, that could have been one of the best games he's played.
Well, it's the best one he played this season. Best one in the playoffs this year. He had some pretty amazing games last season in playoffs too, being banged up and still dominating a couple of times. So I don't know if I could say that it was his best game, but it's up there. Certainly a dominant performance in a, as you said, like a high impact game, important game to close out a series, and he throws that one out there. It was great. Yeah, he was a beast, freaking beast.
Luke Gazdic today made an interesting point. Like when Draisaitl is fully engaged, which he was last night, he also comes with this edge. That Gaz said he doesn't even think you get when McDavid's fully engaged. Like there's like a, well, I mean, for lack of better terms, that there's a pissiness to him when he's fully engaged on the ice that he plays. There was we were watching at Hudson's last night, and one of the plays you guys might have, I didn't expect him to do it, but Kopitar was right in the middle, just outside the blue line, and Draisaitl came across, and I was sitting with Rip City Step, and I was like, blow that guy up now. And I don't expect him to do that, but when he's 100% all in, there is that edge of nastiness to his game. And when you're as big as he is, man, that alone can dictate a game or a series.
I like the sneer that he can bring.
Yeah, sneers, that's a good one. I like that.
More sneer, please. I'll have another dose of that. Honestly.
You're right.
Sneer,
absolutely right.
Right, Cass? That's as talented as he is, it really goes to another level when he's on that side of the game as well. Yeah.
And you see it sometimes during the regular season, but I feel like it's in smaller snippets and it's just kind of small moments. And he didn't have a ton of those during the regular season this year. Like I talked a number of times in pre and post game show, I guess more on the post game show, about how it's like we just kept waiting for Draisaitl to have a dominant game.
Yeah.
Well, now he had it, and you get to see what he's doing when he's dominant, which is not throwing away pucks. It's being extremely physical, mean to play against, and playing with the sneer. I like that, Tommy. It's that's what it is, really. Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from some of the successes they've had in the last couple of playoffs, but Tommy, this series was different. Like this series compared to any of the ones the last couple of years or back in 2017, where sometimes they're flying by the seat of their pants and things like that. This series looked like what a true contender does in the first round of the playoffs, regardless whether it's NBA, NHL, whatever. It felt different than the other ones against the Kings in the past, or the one even against Calgary that was like amazing, but nuts. Like this just has a different vibe to it to start the playoffs this year.
It was still hard at times. There were still nervous moments in games. That's the playoffs. But at the end of the day, the series as a whole was not a struggle for this team. And I don't think you questioned whether or not it was going to win the series. Maybe a little bit after game 2, right? But that was a lot of it Edmonton's own undoing. We talked about that a lot on the postgame that night, about how the Oilers brought their maybe C game and LA had their A game, and Edmonton still managed to claw its way out of a couple of deficits and then lose in overtime in that game. So the struggle and the tug of war wasn't necessarily there, and the good teams get past the first round on long playoff runs generally in all sports. And they did that, which is a good sign. So it has to continue. It only gets tougher from here. These guys are well aware of that. They're prepared for it. Now they have to execute after some well-deserved days off here.
Cass, where do you come out on that conversation of how they took care of business here?
I mean, I don't think the series is in doubt after that first game. Watching them play that first game, I was like, yeah, this is, still could take 6 games, but I was like, they're winning the series. They have the capacity. LA throws everything they have at them, and there's just too much firepower there. Now you had all kinds of people freaking out after game 2. I was not one of them. Tommy maybe a little jittery after that one, but it was kind of like, well, yeah, you didn't expect them to sweep it. No, you were fine. But a lot of people were. And it was just like, no, they were the better team. They were the deeper team. They were the team that if you not just looked on paper, but just watched them play against each other, especially after game one, where like, and game two as well, it's like, okay, Edmonton, when they're playing at or close to their best, they are a far superior team than LA playing at their best. Yeah. And, if both teams are playing at their best, the series could have dragged on a little bit longer. But Edmonton just played patient, didn't force stuff. And they didn't put up a ton 5-on-5, but their special teams was special and absolutely rolled the LA Kings. And that was a huge difference. So it was a dominant performance overall.
I'll just say this, because Cass, last night we went into it on the post game a little bit. We had to really nitpick to look at anything in this series from the Oilers that we were like, well, if we're going to be those guys and overanalyze, it was the 5-on-5 that we said maybe that could have been better. But then you made a good point last night in saying, what is LA? Look, and you brought up that they finished second in goals against per game. I mean, there's two teams that tied for first, but they were second, and that is a tough team to play against 5-on-5. They're set up defensively all the time with that 1-3-1, and they stymied the majority of the National Hockey League throughout the season. And that was the one area where I think maybe there was one other thing we looked at that we said could have been a little bit better, but I'm pretty sure it was just the 5-on-5 where we really had to go and dig and look for something that we're like, well, they could have been better there. But we were saying it half-heartedly because I don't think we truly believed it. And I'm saying that we, in unison, on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream postgame show.
Well, and of course, you were jittery after game two.
Evidently. Cass and I have worked together for 5 years.
What was the moment of this series? Like when you look back on it 3 years from now, Oilers against the Kings. Like it was, we described it this morning. It's kind of like a boring series win. It's not like they won 3 games in overtime. Cass, what would you say was the most memorable moment from this series?
I gotta chew on this.
I know, right?
Okay.
Because there's not one that stands out.
And play along. 780-218-9999. 780-218-9999. Hit us up in the nasty chat. Tommy, what would that moment be?
I'll let Cass chew on it because I'm curious to hear what he says. I was going to say, Cass, you go first because I want to really chew on it. But I'll say this. The 1-0 win. Like
just
the goal.
Yeah.
The power play goal. They get the power play. And I know that's late in the series, technically, but that's where you're like, okay, this is over. Like they had to play the Kings game in LA in game 4, and they still won. And you weren't too worried about them in that game. Because even though LA was dictating the physical play, LA was controlling the pace for the most part, although they were kept to the outside by the Oilers, which I think is another great sign in that series at least. When they scored that goal and they won it in LA's style of game, they LA'd the LA Kings, I think was one line that a texter sent in.
When they get 13 shots and win a game, you're
exactly. And you're like,
yeah.
All right, that's it.
Which kind of summarizes the lameness of the excitement level of this series, right? But but that's a valid point.
Lame. It wasn't not lame.
Had some fun moments.
Cass, what about you? What would it be for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on Dr. Nutsy Nielson, who was in on the nasty chat and said Zach Hyman's hat trick. I think that would be more than the 1-0 game, maybe for me. And it's still like, I don't know, it still wasn't like the biggest thing, but just kind of like, okay, it's going to be other guys stepping up with Hyman in the year that he had, the ability to score goals, the ability to find holes in LA's penalty kill, and just the increased depth of the Oilers. So maybe that's it. I don't know. There wasn't just it felt odd, or it is odd in the series. It's like it's not like there's one defining moment, and so often in series there's like that one big play, one big moment, and it doesn't feel like they had that. Like there wasn't like a series changing moment.
For example, Cass, if the Kings somehow win last night's game, and the Draisaitl goal isn't a goal, and they couldn't find the video evidence.
That's the
moment. Like that's huge.
That's the moment. It's a bounce off the stanchion.
Yeah, something along those lines. Like so. Yeah, you know what? Somebody pointed out. I'm not going to take credit for myself. Somebody pointed out, but Evander Kane's Gordie Howe hat trick?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a big game for him.
Yep.
Kind of now elevated up alongside Leon Draisaitl, which is another element that we'll discuss here as we continue to work our way through it. But yeah, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Katie is in on the text line, says most memorable moment would either be Hyman's very first goal and his let's effing go celebration, or the very end when Draisaitl fist pumped when he drew the penalty on the empty net. Perfect bookends on the series. You know, if you look back for like that memorable video, Draisaitl as he's spinning around, giving you one of these, that's gonna be cut in, that's gonna be cut into the year end video if they go and win the entire thing, right?
Yeah,
like,
it would definitely be.
Yeah.
Okay, so following up on that conversation then, what is the best thing coming out of this series for the Oilers? Because you guys said it. It's hard to even nitpick anything that happened in this series. Right. So, like, the best thing coming out of this series could be 6, 7, 8 different things. Cass, what do you think is is it the rest? Is it their dominant special teams? Is it the fact that Kane and Draisaitl look like they might actually be able to be a duo here in the playoffs? Is it the fact that Desharnais and Ceci, there was no like questions of them coming through this thing? Derek Ryan getting in and playing really well in a limited role and doing some of the smaller things. What would you say is the best thing coming out of this series for the Oil?
It's going to be the rest. I mean, we'll still say more likely statistically to face the Vancouver Canucks, who have at times taken some physical abuse. I mean, you look at Quinn Hughes and how beaten up he's got already this series with potentially 2 more games to play in Vancouver, Nashville, and you're like, okay, like you're getting a couple days here to rest. Evander Kane, for as good as he was, you're still dealing with the injury. It gives him a couple days. Any other guys that have bumps and bruises that are banged up a little bit, it gives you an extra couple of days. So to me, that's the biggest thing coming out of it. I think the success of the power play is also huge. The confidence that they feel with that and its ability to either get them back into games or to pull away in games, I think is massive. But I do think the biggest thing is you're just getting a little bit of extra recovery time just from a health standpoint. And over a long playoffs, it's a great thing to have.
Tommy, what'd you go with, man?
The best thing to come out of this series is great answer, Cass, by the way. I like that the maturity is starting to show and it's coming to the forefront. To me, that's like, oh, now they're doing it, at least for one round. So I like that. Special teams, phenomenal. How that will continue, we shall see. But I like the maturation level starting to show, and I think we've waited a long time to see it come to fruition, and I think it's finally taking. Yeah,
that's a good point. Like they just sort of finished the game last night. We're like, okay, well, a few days off and then get ready. There was no they won a series. It's expected. Like they expected to win the series. Good. And we'll be interested to see how far that moves along. 780-218-9999. 780-218-9999. Hit us up in the nasty chat as well. Zeke 0211 says they showed they can actually play defense. Shut down the 1-0 game. Shut them down last night with a 2-goal lead. Was good to see compared to prior years. That's another element of it. Like there's a lot of things that you could really be pretty excited about coming out of this. Cozy over on the inbox at 780-218-9999. Guys, I thought it was the play of Skinner in the last 3 games. Not that he needed a bounce back, but he was solid.
Yep.
So you got that going for you as well. You'll face bigger offensive threats, I think, along the way here in the postseason.
Absolutely.
And we'll see how that ends up sorting itself out. Penner's Pancakes over on the nasty chat says, how about Kane's engaged and controlled demeanor? He did not lose his temper and take any unnecessary penalties, unlike Pietrangelo last night. And the Dallas Stars with the Vegas Golden Knights on the ropes here a little bit right now as well. And we'll get to that here. We'll come back around to this game. More of your thoughts on that question. We'll also get into the question of Nashville or Vancouver. Does it matter? Which would you prefer? So you can chime in on all of that as well. But let's move along here with the bigger, hotter headlines, which brought to you by Big Mama's and Papa's Pizzeria. BMPP is a real pizzeria restaurant, not just a pizza delivery chain, serving authentic Italian cuisine with their made in-house pizza dough, traditional tomato sauce, and fresh toppings. Each pizza is cooked to perfection, a pizza experience that you've been waiting for. Visit them at 12848 97th Street or order today, www.bmpp.ca, or call 587-746-0550. That's 587-746-0550. They're called the bigger and hotter headlines because the pizzas they have there are bigger and hotter.
I could use some Big Mama, Big Papa.
You want some Big Mamas, Big Papas?
Yeah, I'm starving.
You got to try that egg gondola pizza that they've got there. That like it's not pizza. It's you can get. It's like almost like an omelet inside like a calzone. Yeah, if you go go to the website right now. Go to
calzone.
Yeah, go check it out. It's like go bmpp.
Well, it's kind of like a calzone.
Well, wait, how would you describe it, Cass? Have you seen this thing? Like,
I
it's
see
an
it.
egg boat.
Yeah,
it is a big boat.
It's an egg boat. Is
So
that
this is like a
is that an
breakfast
actual
pizza?
term? Cass, you're a foodie.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It
I don't
looks
know if that's an actual
amazing.
term,
Like
but it seems appropriate.
you could feed like a small family with this.
With the egg boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, the egg gondola pizza.
Wow.
Mozza cheese, feta cheese, butter, and eggs, and then you just mix in whatever the meat is you want in there.
Jeez.
I guess you can get the eggs scrambled if you want, because I
I'd
make
get them
scrambies. Yeah,
scrambled.
I'd probably get them scrambled. Scamby eggs.
You guys need to scramble. No, you wouldn't get scramby. I won't get scramby eggs in that.
You wouldn't?
Give me some yolk. No, give me some
mixing
yolk.
some
That
yolk.
bad boy.
Might not be that bad. All right, so yeah, you can slide on over there. Order now. Big size pizzas. They got the Jumbo 24, Big Mama's 28, Big Papa's 36, which serves 60. That's the one that we had.
Somebody stopped by there the other day. They were telling me they went for a slice, and the slice they said was a
It had like
monster.
4 slices kind of
Yeah.
like put together inside.
They said it was a meal.
It's pretty good, yeah. So go check them out. Big Mamas and Papas. Once again, that address, and tell them we sent you. They'd likely love to hear it. 12848 97th Street, or you can hop online, bmpp.ca, or call 587-746-0550. The bigger and hotter headlines. We got to start. Toronto Maple Leafs facing elimination again tonight, boys. No Austin Matthews again. Cass, do you think they stay alive again? Like, if they force a game 7, I'll give the Leafs a little bit of credit here. I was talking about in the lock shop. If they force a game 7, having not had Matthews for like 2.5 games, and not had Nylander for 3 games, and arguably not had Marner for about 3 games in this series either, I mean, that would be pretty damn impressive, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. I mean, they're going to be in tough. They're going to be in tough with it. Good job battling back in a pretty tight game the other day, but yeah, there's been some obstacles for Toronto. I mean, it feels like it's just been one challenge after another, which sometimes happens in the playoffs, but maybe a little bit more for them than for other teams. But it'd be pretty impressive if they can force a 7. They got a chance, and wouldn't that be a story? You know, if they can force Game 7 and Austin Matthews comes back and scores 8 goals, like we know he will. That would be something. So there's still hope. There's still life for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But guys, it's going to be tough. You know, no Austin Matthews against a Boston team that's playing pretty well. Going to be tricky.
Hey, I like this rallying point, not having Matthews infighting on the bench in the game, and
infighting was nothing. It's
drama, and I'm enjoying.
I wasn't even fighting.
this.
It was almost like Nylander was just like,
said,
enough
"Quit
of your
being a
bitching.
crybaby."
Like, stop whining
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, like, and then he throws the gloves like a baby. Like, that was hilarious. But I like how, whatever, like, the Leafs are kind of showing a little bit of scrappiness. It's adorable. But but what I'm wondering now, Cass and Dusty, is if Toronto's able to push this to 7, they get the win tonight, like, is that more indicative of what Boston truly is, as opposed to look at Toronto rally and boy, they have a lot of fight, as opposed to Boston actually isn't as strong as maybe they were perceived to be in the regular season? Because going into the playoffs, I said to you, I was talking about it, like, all those overtime games, the 15 OTLs that they had, is that a sign of something? And to me, I think, yes, it's a sign that they're not as formidable as maybe they're perceived to be. And if Toronto pushes this to 7, gets a win tonight, I think that, to me at least, could be a sign that maybe Boston does have some cracks that can be exposed.
Go ahead, Kaz. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement, Tom. I mean, I still would lean more towards it's indicative of Toronto and some scrappiness in their game. I don't think Boston's as good as they were last year from a team standpoint, not just from overall what they're able to do from a wins and points in the regular season, but it's like I think they were just overall a better team last year. Now they run up against a Florida team in the playoffs that was just on point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those. It could be a little bit of both, Tommy. But I lean more towards it being more indicative of Toronto than of Boston. And likewise, if Boston wins, I'm not. Well, we know Boston's a good team. We're going to be like, yeah, Boston was a good team. Toronto wasn't able to overcome the obstacles that they faced, and their biggest players, most of them weren't their biggest players when they needed them to be. Because the story coming out of it, and that to me, the reason I say that maybe is this, and this is my justification for it, is if whether it's in Game 6 or in Game 7, Toronto loses. The story isn't going to be anything about the Boston Bruins. It's going to be, about how Mitch Marner didn't have a series. It's going to be about how Austin Matthews was gone. It's going to be about how Nylander was gone. Like that's going to be the story in the series. It's not going to be anything to do with Boston. So I kind of lean towards it's going to be more, more indicative of Toronto than it is of the Boston Bruins.
Tommy, you mentioned what your thoughts on Boston and how this series has gone so far, and if this does end up going 7, even if they win, they're coming out of it, and they're still at the bottom of the Carolina, New York Rangers, Florida Panthers thing, right? Like, I think they, across the board, we'd all view them as the 4th best team remaining in the Eastern Conference. I think that has to be the case for it. Now, with that being said, on the other side of it here with the Maple Leafs, if they do end up losing tonight, they've lost 6 straight home games, by the way. Jeez. Which is wild. 6 straight home playoff games. I'm not talking like 6 straight. Their last 6 home playoff games, the Toronto Maple Leafs have lost. So they haven't been able to win at home. Maybe you could use it as the old, they're due to finally win one. But Tommy, if they lose tonight, that's the last time we see Keefe coaching the Toronto Maple Leafs, isn't
100%.
it? Has to be.
That's it. I mean, he almost got let go right before the All-Star break. And they kind of rallied.
There was a discussion there, wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, and Trebling hasn't changed the coach yet.
No.
So, that would be probably first order of business. Probably the first thing that happens after the season.
It's an automatic. It's an easy one. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's had more than enough time. He was brought in 2019. It's 2023. Lost in the qualifying round. Lost in the first round to the Habs, which was legendary. Lost in the first round to the Lightning. Lost in the second round to Florida, and are on the verge of losing in the first round to the Boston Bruins again. So he's had 4.5 seasons here. They're no better off now than they were when they brought him in.
No.
And it's a new general manager who's probably... I'm interested to see, Cass, do you think they should blow it up even further? Like,
they can't.
But no, I'm talking with Shanahan.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
What do you think about that, Cass? What about, like, right to the top?
Maybe. Shanahan's had a long time there.
He's had a long time there.
10 years now.
You're going to be looking at different, looking at things you could change. That could be one of them.
Has it been 10 years?
The thing with that,
I think so.
Jeez.
The thing with like Shanahan and that, and like your deeper hockey ops is like it doesn't change anything immediately, right? Like that takes time to filter through. So maybe it happens. Maybe it happens, but Keefe is the first in the chopping block, without question. That coaching staff is done if they lose.
Like for Shanahan, 2014, you're right, Tommy, 10 years. I mean, 10 years is a pretty... nowadays...
How many guys last that long?
Yeah, that's a pretty good tenure to get them beyond the first round more than once, right? And it's not there, and you're still looking at it going, well, like... So Shanahan brought in Dubas, who's a guy who's gone to tree living. They brought in Keefe. They moved along. They landed Tavares, all this stuff. But we're still sitting here going, okay, congratulations. You've had a decade to try to get the Toronto Maple Leafs on track. And if they lose tonight, in addition to Keefe, there'll be fans saying you got to blow up the core, a core that Shanahan's helped put together. They all got no movements, though.
Right.
So it's going to be tough to do. So, and there's a new head man. Pelly's running MLSE now, right?
Yes.
So that changes, too. So I don't think it will get there, but I think it could be justified to get there with Shanahan too.
It's certainly going to prompt more conversation around it and around the potential for it. Calvin Cian with this in the nasty chat, which is interesting. If Keefe goes, and with some comments that have been made, is that so Calvin C says the Leafs should bring in Brind'Amour, which could be there's potential there. I think didn't I just was that yesterday? I read an article, maybe it was even today, about how because he hasn't been extended yet.
No, it was today on TSN. They're thinking that something will get done. They're confident that it'll get done. Right,
but we're talking. It came up today in the hangout too. Awanek brought it up where it's like, yeah, the negotiations haven't been smooth or something like that, and there's like a little bit of doubt. And the first thing I thought was, well, Tom Dundon, the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, does things his own way. He's a different cat, and maybe that's where that came from. So
maybe, yeah. But I mean, if you think about coaches that could be a fit. I mean, I look at Toronto and their makeup, and I'm like, yeah, they might serve them well to have him as a coach. I just thought it was an interesting comment from Calvin C. So wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, it's also in the text line too, guys. Plot twist: Leafs hire Brind'Amour in the offseason, win the Cup next year. God, I hope not. That's their words. I mean, I also say God, I hope not, but that's the texter who's in on there. We continue your bigger and hotter headlines here around the National Hockey League for Big Mama's and Papa's Pizzeria. This one's not really a headline, but I'm just going to throw it into this part of the conversation. Do you guys think the Kings could find a taker for Pierre-Luc Dubois?
No,
no chance.
Nope.
At the deadline, remember?
Nope.
They were going to move him to Boston. And Olmark denied the move in a genius way, but that was the
genius move.
That was the conversation that the Boston Bruins were willing to trade one of their two goalies to get Pierre-Luc Dubois, which blows my mind because I don't see why any team with what's remaining on that contract would give up anything. You wouldn't take him for free. You wouldn't take him for free, even
Fourth
if they
line center
in the playoffs
is what he was.
Yeah, justifiably.
Yes.
His
stock fell. That contract might cost Rob Blake his job.
It should cost Rob Blake his job. Like the trade itself, the day they made the trade, you're like, Velarde brings you just as much production as Dubois. And you include all these other things. And then you give him the big deal. I tweeted out last night the gif of Chris Pratt rubbing his hands being like, Rob Blake getting ready to trade Byfield and Brant Clark for Trevor Zegras. Like just like Cass, that is a franchise derailing two decisions. Yeah. The trade and then the contract have completely screwed over the Los Angeles Kings, man.
I wouldn't say completely screwed over. I think there's still a lot of young prospects, Byfield, for example, like guys that are coming into their own there where they, I think, have the potential to still rebuild on the fly. But that Pierre-Luc Dubois contract hurts. Like that eats up a ton of space. It absolutely crushes you, and no one's moving for it. So you very well likely, that could be the move. Ultimately, they cost Blake his job. Tough for them that they run up against Edmonton in the first round or in the playoffs each year the last couple of years. But
minimal impact.
That Dubois contract.
He had
minimal impact. Well, negative impact. Took too many penalties.
Yeah. Can I throw this out to you guys as well? Is that this is Pierre-Luc Dubois' third team, right? And from what we understand, he basically dictated he wanted out from Columbus, dictated he wanted out from Winnipeg, gets to go to the sunshine and the glitz and glamour of LA.
Supposed to be happy.
Gets the monster deal, and that's the dud that he lays all season long. And then when it matters most in the playoffs, even worse. Toxic might be too harsh a word, but this guy is not the right. I
don't know if he would care enough to be labeled as toxic. I don't think the rest of the Kings. I don't think the rest of the Kings are like. I don't think I think he has zero impact. Like just a waste of time. Like I don't think Kopitar and Kempe and Byfield are impacted in any way by Pierre-Luc Dubois, good or bad. He's their second highest paid forward.
Irrelevant. And
then they got 7.9 essentially locked up in Fiala long term as well. And Fiala. Back-to-back 70-point seasons in the regular season.
Yes.
But I don't know, man.
He was quiet in the playoffs.
You got $16 million locked into Dubois and Fiala if you're the Los Angeles Kings right now. So
Fiala was less of a deal, I think, like less of an impact because he as you said, he did put together some.
He's had two nice regular seasons, but you do want him to make an impact in the playoffs. Yeah. They've had him twice for the playoffs now. What do you have?
Fiala?
6 points last year.
I thought Fiala was good last year.
Yeah, this year not so much.
No.
I was a little bit worried about Fiala actually coming into the series.
Fiala and Moore did not have good playoffs.
No, they didn't, did they?
And those are two guys that I really like.
All right, bigger, hotter.
And they needed both those guys. They needed both of those guys. Yeah. If they wanted to win, they had to play at an elite level.
Bigger and hotter headlines continuing here. The Winnipeg Jets eliminated from the postseason. Winnipeg coaching change. That's the way to go. Cass, what do you think? Second best record in the West. Second, but back-to-back years, win game 1, lose 4 straight in the first round.
Yeah. That's tough. Like, what changes is a coach going to make when you bring them in? Like, it could happen just for the sake of change for the sake of change. But does that make them any better? Does a coaching change make them any better? I just don't know, guys. I don't know if it does.
Tommy, what do you think? Do you think Winnipeg all of a sudden next year, they just don't lose 4 in a row, and you'll be better than where you were this year. But they had a really nice regular season, and they got good pieces
excellent.
there. Like,
they have a lot of great players.
You've already moved out the issue. Like, Dubois is gone. You made a great deal. You've got Kyle Connor. You've got Mark Scheifele. You've got some young guys coming. You've still got Nick Ehlers. You've got a stud on the back end. You've got the guy who's going to win the Vezina this year. And
you have
a recipe for another really nice season next year.
Can you have the patience to say, let's regroup and try again next year with this or little tweak here or there? Because, I mean, Colorado is a beast when it's engaged like it was this postseason. The goaltending let them down in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, goaltending and defense, like the defensive structure kind of fell apart.
If anything, if I'm Kevin Shovel-Dayoff, I'm looking at the defense going, how do I make this a little bit better?
Yeah. Huss talked about that, their right side.
Yeah.
Pionk has not been good lately.
Yeah.
No,
smaller on the back end.
If we were going to say maybe the biggest issue, I would say for the Winnipeg Jets is that Pionk had a horrible playoffs. And that he's a guy, it's like when he's on, and we've seen that, and we saw in the playoffs a couple of years ago playing against the Edmonton Oilers, like when Pionk's playing well, he's a really good player, but just didn't get much out of him.
Yeah.
And that, I think, really hurt them because it just hurts their defensive zone. So, depth on that right side. Maybe bring back Trouba.
What is Dylan? What is Dylan DeMello? That's the other thing, too, I wonder. Because he plays with Morrissey, doesn't he?
Yeah. No, he was like plus 42 this year or something.
I know, but I watched him when he was with San Jose, and I see him now, and like I appreciate the hustle, and I think
he's a little bit high up in the depth chart, isn't he?
Like for a top pairing guy, I don't think I think he's maybe not where he's supposed to slot in. Maybe he's a second, third pairing type of right shot D man. But you're not playing Pionk and Morrissey together because they're small guys. You're not playing.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's why DeMello gets the. Yeah. I think the Jets are still a really good team.
Same.
I don't know. I know they've really liked Scott Arniel. He's the assistant there, right? Like, and when Bones was out this year,
Arniel
stepped in
he
and did
Columbus
things a little bit different. Yeah, he was there, wasn't he?
Yes.
So I think he would probably Cass, how much does it change things if you just elevate a guy who was already around the team?
Again, same answer.
Yeah.
Like, what does it actually change?
Yeah.
And there's some people in the Nast chat who was like, "Well, look at the Woodcroft change." I still think it was on Woodcroft. How the Oilers were playing. Now, maybe a little bit. Maybe you could pin it more on Manson and Coffey and that switch from a defensive standpoint.
Mark Stewart too.
I don't know, guys. I don't know that it internal or external. I don't know that it changes much.
Yeah. Bigger, hotter headlines brought to you by Big Mamas and Papas Pizzeria. Check them out, www.bmpp.ca, or call 587-746-0550. You swing on by, grab a slice, swing on by, and grab a 36-incher. 12848 97th Street, just over on 97th Street, just 128th Ave and 97th Street.
My stomach has been growling.
You're a hungry boy today,
I'm a
Tommy?
hungry boy, and every time you mention Big Mama, Big Papa,
sorry, man. I mean, it is the lunch hour, so it totally does make sense. All right, so the Edmonton Oilers will await the winner of the Nashville Predators and the Vancouver Canucks. Tommy, as a team, they'll say, well, you don't care who it is, and maybe they don't, but deep down inside, you probably have a preference one way or the other, like the team would, I would think. But what about you? Who do you think's a better matchup? What do you want to see?
what do I want to see?
You want to see Oilers Canucks?
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like just like how Colorado got swept by Winnipeg, I don't think that the season series tells the true story between the Oilers and the Canucks. In the playoffs, I think it'll be different. Plus, the Canucks are so banged up on the goaltending. And Quinn Hughes is getting his ass handed to him every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Don't care. I feel like the Oilers don't care and have that same mindset. Like, you got to go through these teams no matter what. And I think they're kind of at that stage of their maturation where they think that way. I think both opponents for the Oilers are beatable.
Yeah.
And both obviously have some things that Edmonton would have to be very leery of. But I think it's very similar to that last day of the regular season where LA loses a 2-goal lead to Chicago, falls behind, ties it, wins it in OT, and then Edmonton gets the favorable matchup as opposed to, and then Golden Knights lose to Anaheim that night.
Yeah.
We were all preparing for
That was crazy.
Edmonton,
Everybody was ready
Vegas.
for Oilers Vegas.
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those where it's like, well, like, you can't really choose your opponent. But if it ends up being LA, we kind of know. But if it's Vegas, you kind of want to prove
You
to
gotta
them.
go
I think
through
it's
them
similar
anyway,
in that regard. I want to see Edmonton, Vancouver for the sake of what it could be, the rivalry and all that. But if it's Edmonton and Nashville, I'm like, well, that stacks up good for the Oilers.
Does
too.
stack up good for the Oilers. Cass, are you leaning one way or the other here?
Well, they stack up better against Nashville, I think. But I too want to see Edmonton, Vancouver, just for the rivalry and the two Canadian teams.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that would be fun. And I have good friends that are big Vancouver fans, and there's transplants here that are Vancouver fans, and there's transplants in Vancouver that are Edmonton fans. Like, it would just the atmosphere around it would be amazing.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I want to see it, and I think it would be a hard-fought, fun series to watch between two good teams. A team that gave Edmonton fits, and I think would be a challenge for them in a lot of ways with the way that they forecheck and some of the pressure and some of the offensive potential that's there. But hey, Nashville would be a fun series too. I think they stack up well against both teams. Like, they are both winnable series for the Edmonton Oilers, but I kind of just want to see Vancouver. And, odds are, with Vancouver still having a lead, that's most likely who we see, but still could be up in the air. I just hope, regardless, that they beat the crap out of each other. That would be
take it 7. Take it 7. I think they will. Nashville is a favorite at home in Game 6 to push it to 7. I think this series ends up going 7. It's been kind of a dud though. Like, there hasn't there's not a lot of shots in this series. It's been some drama along the way. I've already give me the Oilers and Canucks for Edmonton Sports Talk purposes. I want an Oilers Edmonton Vancouver all Canadian matchup. I mean, I think it would be absolutely phenomenal. And I don't think it matters. The Oilers, I think, are going to a conference final. Before this other series even ended, I already predicted Oilers in 6 over the Canucks, and I think I'd take Oilers in 5 over the Nashville Predators. So I don't think it matters who they get. I know there'll be a lot of discussion between now and whenever that series ends, and we're obviously having it right now, but. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a kind of a Homer Edmonton take, but I don't think it matters. I don't think either of them will be able to beat the Oilers if the Oilers don't beat themselves along the way here. I don't think.
No, that's a fair point.
Which player on these two teams? This was asked of us today on 3 questions on the morning show. Cass, which player, whether it be on Nashville or Vancouver, would concern you the most in a matchup against the Oilers?
Pedersen, because he's been so quiet.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, and if he all of a sudden wakes up, that might be it. Well, you know what? No, I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna go with Quinn Hughes, because I think offensively he just brings such an element to the table. And I know Doughty is a fantastic defenseman and the anchor of LA, but I just think from an offensive potential output, I probably, now that I'm chewed on it and talking out loud and thinking out loud, I probably got to go with Quinn Hughes.
Who would you say, Tommy?
With the Vancouver Canucks?
No, either team.
Oh, either team.
Like, who's the one player between the two teams combined that you're like, I could give Oilers some fits?
JT Miller.
JT Miller was a popular answer on the Nasty Chat this morning.
He's an asshole to play against.
Yeah.
And he's good.
What would you guys?
Damn good.
Yeah. What would you guys say about Soros?
Well, I would have said, I don't know, like be a little concerned, and then I watched Zadorov go short side
That goal.
from the wall
Yeah.
in the last game in the third period when it was 0-0, and I was like, what the hell was that?
That was weird.
That was a horrible goal.
That was Dustin Wolf.
It looked like he was starting to slide, like he was just going to read, like he didn't think
Yeah.
Zadorov was going to shoot, but then like Zadorov didn't pick a corner. Zadorov
shot
had
it
like
high.
2 feet over his right
Yeah.
shoulder to put that puck in.
know.
So I mean, if everybody was healthy, the answer would be Demko to this question, right? If he was healthy,
but he's not.
Yeah.
Well, is he close?
I don't know.
I thought I saw something pop up
I
on
don't
Twitter
think so. I don't
yesterday that
think
said
so.
it might be.
I don't
Even if
think
he
so.
is, I mean, he's not going to be anywhere close to 100%.
What level of health would he be at if
They listed him as week to week, and that was over a
That's not
week
good.
ago. So, I mean, that would be the answer if they were healthy. I'd definitely go with Thatcher Demko, but he's not. So that's an interesting one. Calvin C says, guys, Zadorov was pushing the Oilers around last time. I think we just learned in that last series, Colorado Winnipeg. Winnipeg owned Colorado in the regular season.
Yep.
Like to the point where in the final 2 weeks of the season on the lock shop, when I was talking with Huss about like, what do you think? Like Dallas, he goes, oh, they want Colorado. They've owned Colorado this year. And then you see what happens in the playoffs. So I'm putting zero stock into the regular season matchups between the Oilers Canucks. None. Zilch. Like if we're previewing that series, first of all, the 2 games at the beginning of the year were completely different.
There's 3 in the
Was
first
there-
11.
Was there 3?
in the first 11
3
games?
in the first 11.
Yes.
I remember the 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I put no stock into it. It wouldn't change my opinion at all, man. Like, yeah, I don't see that happening. All right, so we've got Hockey Help with the Homeless. The draft is tonight at the Canadian Brew House. Cass, how did you go second overall last year?
I went second overall last year.
That was
I
a
don't know- I don't know
stunner,
where I
wasn't it?
should-
That was a stunner. I thought
That was a stunner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for it. So I don't know. I don't know where I go. Do you guys have any input on your teams?
That's
Draft-wise?
the highest. I mean, I'm hosting the draft, so it won't look good if I have a lot to say in it. I think we're picking second again. I think the Brewhouse team raised the second most money,
They did a good job.
so
Yeah.
we'll be picking second. You would. No, I can't say anything after the Alzheimer's tournament. Obviously, sorry, Cassie.
Yeah.
I can't.
I know. I wouldn't believe you if you said anything.
Yeah,
Anyways, so.
but yeah, you and Gager, you guys both went relatively high last year.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
Yes,
So we'll see.
T-Bob.
Yep.
Are you gonna have more finish on Friday than you did over the weekend, Cass?
I better. Man, I couldn't score. Could not score. That was bad. It was funny. Going to bed the other night, and I was just sitting there and just thinking. And my wife, she's brushing her teeth, finished brushing her teeth, turned to me. She's like, what are you doing? And I was just like, I'm just thinking. She's like, what are you thinking about? You're just like staring off into nothing. And I'm like, I was thinking about how I couldn't score. And I was just like running through all of them in my mind. And I'm like, I couldn't finish. I was like, I should have done this. I should have done that. And she's like, it was a charity tournament. Why are you thinking about that? I'm like,
She's right.
I can't help it. I can't help it. I was just, I was just running through it. I'm like, should have scored. Should have won that game. But
She doesn't
that's-
understand the grade A looks, eh? Like you had some good looks. I'm just kind of taking a look here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the rest of the list of.
What's the lineup? We had Bucky last year.
We had Bucky last year.
And then the year before that, I had Rob Klinkhammer.
Oh, yeah, I was on that team with you.
Yeah, Klink
Yeah,
was
we
great.
had Klinkhammer and then Bucky last year. Here's a list of pros this year that will be competing with Cass and Gager for top 5 pick status.
Buzzy's in there.
Ronnie and Rich Sutter, Teddy Peckman.
Oh, yeah.
I like that
Theo
guy.
messaged me he's
Teddy
coming in,
Peckman, Strutty, Keith Acton. We played against Acton. Was actually kind of pissed last week against our team.
Really?
We played against Acton last week and he wasn't happy.
Why?
I don't know.
He's got new
he
knees.
I was gonna say, I was chatting with him before, and he's like, "No, new knee, new hip."
Oh,
yeah,
poor guy.
wow.
So yeah, but he's still moving pretty good out there.
Charlie Huddy, Bucky, Mac T, Scrudlin, Scrivens, Cass, Laddie Smead, Doug Hicks, Chris Joseph, Dale Weiss.
Oh, wow.
You fight him, Cass?
Oh, Weiser's there. No, but had some good clashes when he was in Montreal.
Yeah.
Dutch
We
Gretzky.
are because our teams didn't. Yeah.
And then McIntyre, Gager, and Chris Kalanos as well. So pretty good list there.
Yeah.
Pretty good list. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see how it plays out. That draft will be going down.
I don't know. I'm looking at this. I could slip here, guys. Like Huddy's gonna go. Chris Joseph always goes.
Joe's good.
Mac T always goes. The Sutters usually go pretty high.
Bucky's going to go. Like, I don't know. Do you think
Bucky goes? Stevie Mac goes. I could fall to the top 10 here pretty easily.
Laddie Smead probably goes ahead of you. Hey, Cass?
Probably.
I would
Laddie
think
probably goes ahead of me this year.
With that Oilers connection. Yeah, I'm probably putting you and Gager in that 8 to 12 range.
Yeah, I think I would put me in the 10 to 14. Really, looking at that list, it's a pretty solid list.
The Sutter who was playing last week slid down the list quite a bit.
Oh no.
Yeah. He went after Exelby and you, I think, Cass. I'm pretty sure. So
I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, great guys though. They'd be fun to have around. So, yeah, that'll be fun. Looking forward to that draft tonight. Should be a pretty good time. As for the two games that'll be going tomorrow, do you think Dallas finishes off Vegas? Is that thing done? Is Dallas taking 4 in a row, or is Vegas going 7?
I don't know. I think it goes 7. I think it goes 7. But we've been saying I think 7 for that series the whole time. Like even with Vegas up to, I was like, it's still probably going 7. Like those are just two really good teams, which is why it's a fun series. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. I think they take it 7, and I think Dallas wins in 7.
I like
saying
that.
in 7.
I like
Does
that.
Vegas have one punch left in them, the defending champs?
One more punch
before they get taken out down to the mat in Game 7.
Yes, I like Zach Cass's prediction.
Both games, both series are going 7. Hey, we're gonna get the 2 7s.
We're going 7.
I think it's gonna go 7. Not the Boston series.
No,
but the other two.
Yes.
They're going to go 7.
Yeah,
2
like
7-game
Cass's
series in the West.
prediction about
Colorado and Edmonton just sitting there being like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great. All right, Cass, we'll let you get back to work. We'll see you tonight at the Brew House for the Hockey Helps the Homeless draft. You come on the draft tonight, Tommy?
We'll see.
We'll see. All right, so we might get a little Tommy Gazzola appearance there tonight, too, with the team as well. Spency 5 cents, he says, plus 420. Cass in the top 10.
Boom.
All right, we'll get those odds up at Coolbet. That is going to do it for two guys and a goalie today. Hopefully, Gager's daughter won the dance contest she was in today. Gager, of course, will be back with us again next week for two guys and a Gazzola.
Hey.
I'm Dustin Nielson. Nielson Show replay. It was a great show today. Fun show today. Nielson Show replay coming up here on TuneIn, iHeart, and EdmontonSportsTalk.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow. All day tomorrow, we'll be at the Terwilliger Rec Center doing all of our shows over there for Edmonton Sports Talk. For Hockey Helps the Homeless, should be a good one. Cass, we'll talk to you tonight.
Sounds good, buddy.